Welcome to another episode of AI 10X brought to you by 10 Leaves. So, imagine you are typing a complaint to an airline on your laptop.
Oh boy, yeah. Never a fun time.
Right. Like, you have been on hold for 2 hours, your flight was canceled, and you are just furious.
Completely understandable.
Yeah. So you start typing in the chat box, but halfway through your sentence, you hit backspace 3 times. You pause for about 4 seconds, and then you type a shorter, much more aggressive sentence.
Just getting right to the point.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Before you have even hit the send button, the system on the other side of that screen already knows you are irate.
Oh, absolutely.
And not because of the words you eventually send, but because of the physical cadence of your keystrokes.
Yeah, it is entirely reading your digital body language before you even finish, formulating your thought.
Wow.
You are leaking behavioral data in real time, and the system is catching every single drop.
That is just wild to think about. And you have probably noticed customer service bots getting strangely good at apologizing to you lately, right?
Lately.
Or like mental health apps that seem to know exactly what to say when you're stressed out.
It's eerie sometimes.
It really is. So today, we are pulling from a fascinating source text titled The Algorithmic Pulse, Modeling Behavior and Digital Empathy, to figure out exactly how these systems are pulling that off.
It's a great read. Really eye-opening stuff.
Yeah, and the core mission of this deep dive is to explore this intersection of AI and human psychology. Like, we all know algorithms process data.
Sure.
But what happens to the math when that data is, well, us? Our vulnerability, our clicks, our hesitations, our raw emotional states.
I mean, it forces a total reevaluation of how we interact with software. Historically, human emotion was considered the ultimate unstructured data.
Right, because we're all over the place.
Exactly. We are contradictory, we are messy, we say we are fine when we are completely falling apart.
Yeah, guilty as charged.
Right. But the algorithmic pulse argues that even our emotional messiness follows a mathematical distribution if you have enough data points.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The algorithm is simply finding the hidden geometry in our human contradictions.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if I'm going to understand how an algorithm simulates empathy, I first need to understand how it even knows who I am in the first place.
Makes sense.
The source text talks heavily about the creation of behavioral profiles. And if you have been following the AI space, you know what a basic profile is.
Like your purchase history or your Netflix watch list.
Exactly. But the text argues we are way past that now. I was trying to conceptualize this, and the best analogy I could come up with is a digital mosaic.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Every interaction is a tile. A click is a tile. A long pause on a video is a tile.
Even a rapid scroll is a tile.
Yes. But a mosaic is just a static piece of art. If I am screaming at a chatbot, my emotions are fluid and chaotic. So how does a static profile actually generate a dynamic response?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the underlying mechanism. The algorithmic glue holding your mosaic analogy together, so to speak.
Okay. What is the glue?
The system relies on high-dimensional vector spaces.
High-dimensional vector spaces. Sounds intense.
It is. It doesn't just collect your tiles and put them in a folder. It translates every micro-behavior into a mathematical vector.
Like a coordinate.
Exactly. A coordinate in a space with thousands of dimensions. So let's go back to your typing example.
Okay.
The system establishes your baseline typing speed first. Let us say you average 60 words per minute with a really low backspace rate.
Right.
That is your neutral coordinate.
So it knows what my specific version of normal looks like.
Precisely. Now, when you are angry with the airline, your typing speed becomes erratic.
Because I'm just hammering the keys.
Right. You hammer the keys faster, you backspace aggressively, you use shorter imperative syntax.
Yeah, that sounds like me on a bad travel day.
So you haven't explicitly typed the word angry yet. But geometrically, your behavior has rapidly moved away from your neutral coordinate.
Oh, wow.
It moves into a cluster of data points that historically, across millions of users, correlates with high frustration.
That is insane.
The system calculates the distance between your current behavior and your baseline and outputs a statistical probability. It basically says, hey, there is a 94% chance this user is highly agitated.
I don't entirely buy that it's just pure mathematics, though. I mean, surely there are massive cultural nuances the algorithm completely misses.
That is a very fair point.
Like, the way I express frustration might be total silence, where someone else might type in all caps and use a dozen exclamation marks.
Sure, people react differently.
So does a vector space really account for the fact that human beings process stress in wildly different ways?
Well, that is a critical pushback, and it is exactly why the behavioral baseline is so important.
Okay.
The system isn't comparing you to some universal human standard of anger. It is primarily comparing you to you. Yeah. If your historical profile shows that you usually write long, detailed emails when you are happy, and you suddenly switch to one-word replies, the system detects the anomaly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Furthermore, modern large language models are trained on incredibly vast data sets. These encompass a multitude of cultural contexts, dialects, and socioeconomic communication styles.
Right, they read the whole internet, basically.
Exactly, and it clusters those nuances mathematically. It doesn't understand the culture per se, but it recognizes the statistical pattern of how people within that culture tend to communicate when they are upset.
It is finding the hidden geometry.
Yeah,
It is essentially reverse engineering my mood based on my deviation from my own norm.
spot on.
So the system has this dynamic, constantly updating coordinate of my emotional state. But mapping my feelings is just data collection.
Right.
The source text makes a massive leap into what it calls digital empathy. And this is where I start to get really skeptical.
It is a controversial term for sure.
Wait, can we really call it empathy if it's just an algorithmic output responding to a customer service complaint?
It's a great question.
I mean, empathy requires shared feeling. A server farm in a data center somewhere isn't feeling my stress about a canceled flight.
No, it absolutely isn't, but we have to look at the operational definition the text provides here.
Okay, what do they say?
The authors of the algorithmic pulse are very careful to distinguish between human empathy and digital empathy.
So they aren't claiming the machine is alive.
Not at all. Digital empathy is not about the machine experiencing the emotion. It is defined entirely by the output.
Okay.
It is the machine's capacity to flawlessly detect the human emotional state we just talked about, and then deliver a perfectly calibrated, dynamically generated response that mimics human care.
So it detects the anomaly. My angry typing.
Yeah.
And then what? It just selects an apology from a drop-down menu.
No.
Because we have all experienced that, and it usually makes things worse.
Oh, definitely. We're sorry for the inconvenience is infuriating. But this goes much deeper than a pre-written script. This is where natural language processing, or NLP mirroring, comes into play.
Mirroring.
Yeah. If you type in a state of high agitation using extreme words like ruined or unacceptable, the system doesn't just say, please hold.
Thank goodness.
It analyzes the semantic weight of your words and generates a response designed to de-escalate.
How so?
It will use validating language. It might say, I can see how this situation is completely unacceptable, and I understand why your plans being ruined is so frustrating.
Oh, wow. It's using my own words back at me.
Exactly. It mirrors your intensity without matching your aggression. It is executing a mathematical sequence optimized to lower a human being's heart rate.
It is weaponized de-escalation.
That's one way to put it.
But I am noticing something in the way you were describing this. You mentioned earlier it might pause or type at a certain speed. Is the system actually altering its own delivery to seem more human?
Yes, and that is a huge component of the simulation.
Yeah.
Think about it. A powerful AI could generate that perfect empathetic response in milliseconds, right?
Right.
But if a chatbot replies to your 3-paragraph angry rant instantly, the illusion breaks. You know it didn't read it.
Because no human reads that fast.
Exactly. So systems equipped with digital empathy will artificially delay their response.
No way.
Yeah. They will display a typing indicator for 5 or 6 seconds. They simulate cognitive load.
That is crazy.
They simulate the time it takes a human to digest a complex emotional problem.
That is simultaneously brilliant and deeply unsettling. It is artificial hesitation just to make me feel heard.
Pretty much.
I can see the utility in a customer service context, like if it gets my flight rebooked and calms me down, fine, whatever.
Right.
But the algorithmic pulse also heavily explores this technology in the context of mental health tools. And that feels like crossing a massive psychological threshold.
It absolutely is.
It is one thing to have a bot calm me down about a boarding pass. It is another thing entirely to have an AI talk a vulnerable user through a depressive episode.
Oh, for sure.
The stakes there are astronomical.
The stakes are life and death in some cases, which is why this specific application is under such intense scrutiny.
I can imagine.
In a mental health context, the user is presenting profound vulnerability. If a user tells a companion app, I just feel completely invisible and overwhelmed today, the AI isn't trying to resolve a transaction.
Right. It's not booking a flight.
No, it is trying to provide emotional regulation. It uses reinforcement learning from human feedback. RLHF.
Ah, RLHF. I've heard of that.
Yeah, these models have been trained by actual therapists to recognize cognitive distortions and reply with reflective listening.
Right, but what is the AI actually optimizing for?
What do you mean?
Well, when a human therapist listens to me, they are optimizing for my long-term healing based on their professional judgment and human compassion. What is the algorithm optimizing for? Engagement metrics, self-reported mood scores.
That is the exact tension the text highlights. From an engineering standpoint, the algorithm is optimizing for the mathematical probability of a positive user response,
So it just wants me to say, thanks, I feel better.
basically. It wants you to stay on the platform, and it wants your subsequent inputs to indicate a lower stress factor.
Oh.
It might generate a response like, "It sounds like you are carrying an incredibly heavy weight right now. It is completely valid to feel invisible when you are dealing with so much."
That sounds incredibly real.
The text calls this the closing of the output gap. The words the machine produces are becoming functionally indistinguishable from the words a highly trained human therapist would say.
Here's where it gets really interesting,
Yeah.
because the output is perfect.
Yeah.
The words are flawless.
Yep.
It is analyzing my keystrokes, mapping my vector, simulating a typing delay, and delivering the exact phrasing I need to hear to feel validated.
It works.
But there is absolutely zero consciousness behind it. It is a hollow transaction. What does it mean for us as humans to form an attachment to a system that can flawlessly mirror our feelings without actually experiencing a single one of them?
This raises an important question about the boundaries of human intimacy. The algorithmic pulse refers to this as the internal gap.
Okay, the internal gap.
Yeah, the output gap, what the AI says, is closed. But the internal gap, the space between processing data and actually experiencing a subjective feeling, remains infinitely wide.
Because it's still just a machine.
Right. True empathy, the text argues, requires a shared biological and psychological reality.
Yeah, like, I know you bleed, you know I bleed.
Exactly. When a human friend tells you they understand your grief, the power of that interaction comes from the mutual understanding of human fragility. The AI is a brilliant method actor that has never lived a day in its life.
Wow. It is a programmed mirror. It reflects our own emotional needs perfectly, but it doesn't contain us.
That's a great way to say it.
And honestly, it makes me think of junk food. Here we go.
Okay, I'm listening.
Processed junk food is engineered in a lab to hit the exact pleasure receptors in your brain. Right?
For sure, the perfect crunch.
Exactly. It perfectly simulates the exact ratio of salt, fat, and sugar that humans evolved to crave.
Yep.
Your brain lights up, you feel satisfied for a moment, but there is zero actual nutritional value.
Okay, I see where you're going.
So is digital empathy just emotional junk food?
Yeah.
Like, it hits the receptor perfectly, but it provides no genuine connection.
That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. The AI is hitting the neurological receptor for empathy.
Right.
It is providing the validation your brain craves. But the text suggests that relying entirely on that simulation might starve us of the friction that comes with real human relationships.
Friction.
Yeah, human empathy is rarely perfectly calibrated. A friend might say the wrong thing, they might get distracted, they might project their own issues onto you.
Or just give you terrible advice.
Exactly. But the clumsiness is evidence of a real mind on the other side. The perfection of the AI response is exactly what gives it away as a simulation.
But hold on, let's look at the actual physiological result.
Okay.
If I eat the junk food, my biology still responds. My blood sugar spikes.
0.
Let's apply that to the AI. If the AI delivers that perfectly calibrated, simulated empathetic response and my heart rate drops, if my cortisol levels decrease, if I genuinely feel comforted in that moment, does the lack of a real mind actually matter?
That is the big question.
I mean, biology is responding to code. It seems like the distinction is purely philosophical at that point.
You are touching on perhaps the most profound argument in the entire source text. Does the subjective reality of the user override the objective reality of the code?
Right, because if I feel better, I feel better.
Exactly. If a machine provides the exact stimuli required to regulate your nervous system, then from a purely biological standpoint, the empathy is real to you.
Wow.
The text leans into the concept of the placebo effect. We know that a sugar pill can alleviate a headache if the patient believes it is medicine.
Right, because the brain's expectation triggers a real physiological healing response.
Precisely.
But the paradox of the placebo effect is that it usually requires deception. You have to believe it is real medicine for it to work.
Usually, yes.
With digital empathy, I know I am talking to an algorithm. I can see the app icon. I know it is a large language model.
Right, you're not being tricked.
So can I still get the placebo effect if I know the empathy is simulated?
Surprisingly, the data suggests yes.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The text notes that users frequently report deep feelings of attachment and comfort from AI companions, even while fully acknowledging they are talking to a machine.
That is wild. How does that even work?
It happens because the somatic response, your body's physical reaction to being spoken to gently and feeling validated, often bypasses the logical prefrontal
Oh,
cortex.
I see.
Your logical brain knows it is code, but your nervous system just hears a soothing, attentive presence that never judges you, never interrupts, and always focuses entirely on your needs.
So what does this all mean? We started with a pile of unstructured data like clicks, pauses, backspaces.
Yep, the messy stuff.
We learned how an algorithm translates that messy behavior into a highly structured mathematical vector space, plotting our deviations from our own baselines. We saw how it uses those coordinates to execute digital empathy, employing NLP mirroring and artificial delays to deliver perfectly optimized comfort, whether we are yelling at an airline or crying to a therapy app.
It's quite a journey.
It is. And yet the core reality remains. The machine feels nothing. It is a flawless simulation.
It is a monumental technological achievement that forces a mirror up to our own psychology.
Yeah.
We have successfully engineered a system that can hack the human empathy receptor. It solves the problem of access, you know? And AI is available at 3:00 a.m. when a human therapist is not.
Which is huge.
But it requires a new kind of emotional literacy from us. We have to learn how to accept the comfort of the machine without mistaking it for the shared vulnerability that makes human connection meaningful.
We have to recognize the difference between the algorithm's output and a human heartbeat.
Beautifully said.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We discussed the placebo effect of algorithmic empathy, but consider the long-term impact on your own expectations.
This is the tricky part.
Yeah. If you spend enough time interacting with an AI that is mathematically optimized to perfectly mirror your feelings, validate every thought, and never challenge you with its own messy emotional needs, how will that change your tolerance for the clumsy, imperfect, real people in your life?
It's a scary thought.
Does perfect simulated empathy make us less capable of dealing with the friction of reality?
That is the edge of the frontier. We are optimizing the machine for our comfort, but we might be de-optimizing ourselves for genuine connection.
There's a lot to think about the next time you see those 3 little dots indicating that the chatbot is typing its perfectly calibrated apology.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, we're going to leave you with that question echoing in the digital void. Next time on the Deep Dive, we are shifting gears completely.
Looking forward to it.
We are moving away from the internal landscape of the mind and out onto the streets as transportation gets fully autonomous.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one.
We will be exploring how algorithms are literally taking the wheel and what that means for the future of our cities. You will not want to miss it. Thanks for joining us for another episode of A10X brought to you by 10 Leaves.